I now invite Senator Donna Scott Motley, representing the Leader of the Opposition, to address the Parliament.
His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, the Most Honorable Juliet Honus, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Senator the Honorable Tom Tavares Finson, President of the Senate, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Honus, Prime Minister of Jamaica, members of the House of Representatives and the Senate, members of the Diplomatic Corps, our visitors from Ghana, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and I cannot neglect the judiciary on this occasion. Madam Speaker, there are visits that mark diplomacy. There are visits that mark friendship. And there are visits that remind us of who we are. And this is such one today. It is my honor and my privilege to join this honorable House in welcoming His Excellency, President John Dramani Mahama, to the Parliament of Jamaica. We welcome you, the President of Ghana. But we also welcome a people with whom we have shared a journey for centuries. Our ancestors stood upon the shores of Ghana. They walked through the door of no return. History gave it that name. It was meant to mark an ending, the ending of a homeland, the ending of people, the ending of hope. But history does not always belong to those who write it. Our ancestors crossed an ocean, but they did not cross out memory. They crossed an ocean, but they did not cross out identity. They crossed an ocean, but they did not cross out hope. They carried with them songs that became our music. They carried rhythms that still beat in our hearts. They carried traditions that found new life in Jamaica. They carried faith that sustained generations. They carried an unbreakable spirit that no chain could bind and no ocean could drown. They left the shores of Ghana, but Ghana never left them. It lives in our culture, it lives in our language, it lives in our communities, it lives in us. Madam Speaker, history has a remarkable way of completing its circles. When Ghana emerged as the first independent nation in sub-Saharan Africa, it chose as its symbol at the center of its flag the black star, inspired by Marcus Garvey's vision of the Black Star Line, a Jamaican dream that has become part of Ghana's national identity. How fitting that a dream born in Jamaica should become a symbol of African freedom. How fitting that the story which began in Africa should return, not in chains, but in triumph. Our nations, Mr. President, are connected not only by memory, but by purpose. Madam Speaker, Ghana has not confined itself to remembering history. It is helping to shape it. Your country's leadership at the United Nations in advancing the recognition of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade as crimes against humanity marked a significant moment in the international pursuit of justice. It confirmed for us that this is not merely a question of memory or morality, but one of international law, human dignity, and the continuing consequences of one of history's great injustices. Today, you, President Mahama, you have renewed that leadership through the establishment of the Global Advisory Council on Reparatory Justice, on which 3 prominent Caribbean leaders sit. Our own Prime Minister Andrew Holness, Prime Minister Mia Mottley, and Dr. Ralph Gonzalez have been called to your service. Madam Speaker, I hope that President Mahama's presence here will also inspire us to reflect on our own unfinished journey towards full sovereignty. As we speak of reparatory justice and the enduring legacy of colonialism, may we find the courage to complete our own journey from monarchy to republic and to embrace the Caribbean Court of Justice as our if we are serious about reclaiming our history, asserting our sovereignty, and shaping our own future, then surely we must have the courage to do so fully. May this visit remind us that the journey from Africa to the Caribbean did not end with emancipation or independence. It continues in the work of building nations that are fully sovereign, confident in their identity, and masters of their own destiny. The great Caribbean poet, Kamau Brathwaite, whose years in Ghana transformed his understanding of the Caribbean, taught us that Africa was never a place from which we came. It is a part of who we are. Perhaps this is why this visit feels so deeply significant. For today, the descendants of those who left Ghana welcome the President of Ghana to the Parliament of Jamaica.
I now invite His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, to address this joint sitting of the Honorable Senate and House of Representatives of Jamaica. His Excellency.
Thank you very much. Right Honorable Speaker, at the end of my brother, the Right Honorable Prime Minister's speech, he said Midasi. Midasi in the Akan language means I thank you. For those who didn't understand what he said. And of course, welcome is Akwaba. I'm sure these are simple words that we've shared over our history. Aside from that, I was a 3-term member of Parliament, so I feel very comfortable in the chambers of Parliament. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, Right Honorable Speaker, Juliet Holness, President of the Senate, Right Honorable Tom Taveras, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Right Honorable Members of Parliament, it is with profound humility and a deep sense of history that I stand before you, this distinguished joint sitting of the Parliament of Jamaica, to thank you sincerely for the exceptional honor of addressing this August Assembly during my state visits to Jamaica. I bring you warm fraternal greetings from the government and people of the Republic of Ghana, your brothers and sisters across the Atlantic Ocean. I also bring the goodwill of an entire continent that regards Jamaica not merely as another friendly nation, but as an indispensable member of our wider African family. Our gathering here today is much more than a diplomatic engagement. It is a reunion of history. It's a celebration of our shared heritage and a reaffirmation that although the Atlantic Ocean may separate our shores, it can never diminish the bonds that unite our people. The relationship between Ghana and Jamaica is unlike many others in the community of nations. It was not forged by treaties alone. It was forged through shared sacrifice, sustained by resilience, and strengthened by a common belief in freedom, justice, and human dignity. Today, as Jamaica commemorates Emancipation Day and celebrates the 64th anniversary of independence, Ghana joins you in honoring the remarkable journey of a proud people whose courage, creativity, and resilience continues to inspire the whole of Africa, the Caribbean, and the global African diaspora. And Ghana is proud to have been among the first countries to recognize the newly independent nation in 1962. Emancipation Day and Independence Day are not simply national celebrations, they are enduring symbols of humanity's determination to overcome oppression and reclaim dignity. They remind us that even in the darkest chapters of history, nothing can extinguish the human spirit. The story of Jamaica is in many respects the story of Africa. It began in the great civilizations of our continent, the Empire of Ghana, Mali, Songhai, Great Zimbabwe, Buganda, Ashanti, Moshi, Benin, Ile-Ife, and many others. And this is before millions of Africans were forcibly taken across the Atlantic, endured the horrors of the Middle Passage, survived the brutality of enslavement, but found hope in communities in the New World that refused to surrender their identity, their faith, or their humanity. Against unimaginable odds, our ancestors preserved their cultures, their traditions, and their belief in freedom. They resisted oppression in countless ways, ensuring that future generations would inherit not despair, but hope. From the maroon communities in Jamaica to the liberation movements that swept across Africa, the spirit of resistance of the African endured. And it ultimately gave birth to free nations that were determined to shape their own destinies. Today we honor the enslaved men and women whose labor enriched empires while their humanity was denied them. We honor those who resisted injustice. We honor those who fought for emancipation, self-determination, and national liberation. And we honor the generations whose sacrifice secured the freedoms that we enjoy today. Their courage reminds us that freedom is never given on a silver platter. It is earned through sacrifice. It is sustained by vigilance and is strengthened by unity. As we honor our shared past, we must also confront it with honesty and courage. History cannot be changed, but it can be acknowledged. And only by acknowledging historical truth can we build a future that is founded on reconciliation, justice, and mutual respect. As was recently reaffirmed at the United Nations General Assembly, the transatlantic slave trade and the racialized chattel enslavement of Africans was the gravest crime committed against humanity. The consequences of this grave crime did not end with abolition. The consequences continue even today to shape the patterns of inequality and exclusion that have persisted across our world. For this reason, we must remain steadfast in advancing the global conversation on reparatory justice. Our pursuit of reparatory justice is not motivated by resentment or hostility or a desire to revisit old wounds. It is inspired by our commitment to the truth, to accountability, to reconciliation, and to healing. It seeks recognition of historical wrongs, acknowledgement of their enduring consequences, and a collective determination to build a more just and equitable global order. In this regard, permit me to express Ghana's profound appreciation to the government and people of Jamaica for your unwavering support to Ghana's initiative at the United Nations, which culminated in the adoption of Resolution ARES/80/250, and for your invaluable contribution to the Accra Next Steps Conference on Reparatory Justice. Jamaica has provided principled leadership on this important issue for many years. Together, our two nations are ensuring that the descendants of those who suffered history's greatest injustice are neither forgotten or denied a voice in shaping a fairer world. Our advocacy is ultimately about hope. Hope that our future generations will inherit a world in which historical truth is acknowledged, human dignity is upheld, and justice becomes the foundation for lasting reconciliation. And that is the vision that continues to unite Ghana and Jamaica. It is a vision worthy of our ancestors. It is a vision to which we remain unwaveringly committed. I wish to also reiterate my message to the Right Honourable Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Holness, yesterday, that Ghana fully supports the petition on slavery Jamaica proposes to soon submit to King Charles III. Right Honourable Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, Right Honourable President, honourable members, while we must never forget the injustices of history, neither must we allow them to imprison us. The story of people of African descent is not simply one of suffering. It is equally a story of resilience, excellence, and enduring achievement. It is a story of civilizations that advanced human knowledge, of freedom fighters who challenged oppression, of innovators who expanded the frontiers of science and technology, of artists whose creativity enriched global culture, and of statesmen and women who inspired nations to believe in the possibilities of freedom and self-determination. Few countries have contributed to this legacy I describe more profoundly than Jamaica. The land that gave the world the visionary leadership of the Right Honourable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, whose call for black pride, self-reliance, and African unity awakened the consciousness of millions across Africa and the diaspora. His ideas inspired generations of Pan-African leaders, including our own founding father, President Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who admitted in many of his writings that he drew strength from Garvey's vision in leading Ghana to independence and championing the liberation and unity of the African continent. The Pan-African movement itself is a testament to the inseparable bonds between Africa and the Caribbean. It was nurtured not only by Africans, but also by distinguished Caribbean sons and daughters, among them the great Trinidadian Pan-Africanist George Padmore, who made Ghana his home and worked side by side with President Nkrumah in advancing the cause of African liberation and unity. These towering figures remind us that the freedom of Africa and the Caribbean has always been a shared enterprise. Jamaica has also given humanity the timeless message of Bob Marley, whose music transcends borders. And whose voice became a universal anthem for freedom, justice, and human dignity. Through your writers, musicians, athletes, and creative talents, Jamaica has projected a cultural influence far beyond its size and has enriched the heritage of the global African family. In Ghana, across the Atlantic, we've never regarded these achievements as Jamaica's alone. We have celebrated them as victories for all people of African descent. Today, although we live under different flags and may speak with different accents, we remain united by a common heritage and an interconnected destiny. The challenge before us is therefore clear. We must transform our shared history into shared purpose. We must move beyond sentiments and build partnerships that create opportunity, expand prosperity, and improve the lives of our people. And as our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, reminded us, and I quote, he says, "The forces that unite us are intrinsic and greater than the superimposed influences that keep us apart." Those words speak as powerfully to us today as they did at the dawn of African liberation. Now, our generation must secure economic transformation, scientific advancement, and technological leadership. As Bob Marley famously reminds us, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. The liberation of the African mind remains one of the defining tasks of our generation. It demands confidence in our own institutions. It demands belief in our own capabilities and an unwavering commitment to accountability and excellence. Above all, it requires that our young people see themselves not as descendants of slaves, but as heirs to greatness and architects of an even greater future. Madam Speaker, Right Honorable President, honorable members, the 21st century presents Africa and the Caribbean with an historic opportunity. Africa is home to the world's youngest, fastest growing population, possesses immense natural resources, and is becoming rapidly a growing center of innovation and enterprise. The Caribbean and Jamaica continue to exercise global leadership on climate justice, sustainable development, democracy, and multilateral cooperation. And most of all, Jamaica presents a gateway to the larger American and Caribbean areas. Together, these two regions possess enormous human talent, cultural influence, and economic potential. History has connected us, and the future now calls upon us to work together with greater ambition. We must strengthen cooperation between African Union and the CARICOM. We must deepen our collaboration within the United Nations and other multilateral institutions. And we must coordinate our positions on issues that will define the future of humanity. Whether the challenge is climate change, reform of the international financial architecture, food security, public health, or digital transformation, our voices will carry greater weight if we speak together. The partnership between Africa and the Caribbean should therefore no longer be defined only by our shared past, but also by our shared future. It should be recognized for the future we are determined to build together. It is this conviction that inspired me to call the Accra Reset Conference recently. The Accra Reset reflects our belief that institutions governing the world must evolve to reflect the realities and aspirations of the 21st century. Too many developing countries continue to confront structural barriers to financing, unequal trading arrangements, and inadequate representation in global decision-making bodies. These inequities cannot define our future. The Accra Reset calls for a new development paradigm founded on mutual respect, productive investment, and genuine partnership. It seeks to accelerate industrialization, promote value addition, encourage innovation, exercise national sovereignty over our resources, and equip our young people with the knowledge and skills to compete successfully in the global economy. But above all, it calls for a more balanced international order in which developing countries participate as equal partners in shaping global solutions. And that is why Ghana continues to advocate comprehensive reform of the United Nations Security Council, including permanent African representation. It is the reason why we support reforms that give developing countries a stronger voice within the international financial institutions. And it is why we believe Africa and the Caribbean must continue to stand together in pursuit of a fairer, more exclusive, and more representative international system. When we work together, our partnership becomes more than just a historical connection. It becomes a powerful force for global progress, for shared prosperity, and for lasting justice. Madam Speaker, history has brought Ghana and Jamaica together. The future now calls upon us to deepen that relationship with renewed purpose and greater ambition. Our friendship has endured because it's founded not merely on diplomacy, but on shared values, on mutual respect, and an abiding sense of kinship. We recognize in each other not only trusted partners, but members of the same global African family. The task before us is therefore very clear. It is to transform our historical bonds into practical partnerships that create jobs for our people, expand opportunities, and improve the lives of our citizens. The African Continental Free Trade Area, which has its headquarters in Accra, offers unprecedented opportunities for closer commercial relations between Africa and the Caribbean. With a market of more than 1.4 billion people, it provides Jamaican businesses with a gateway to Africa, just as Jamaica can serve as an important bridge for Africa's engagement with the Caribbean and the Americas. Together, we should strengthen trade and investment, we should promote joint ventures between our business people, and encourage greater collaboration between our private sector. We should deepen cooperation. We should deepen cooperation in agriculture, tourism, maritime transport, renewable energy, digital technology, education, healthcare, and the creative industries. We should encourage greater exchanges amongst our universities. And I'm happy to note that the University of West Indies and my alma mater, the University of Legon, already have a training relationship. Between our research institutions, between our young entrepreneurs, ensuring that innovation becomes the cornerstone of our partnership. As island and coastal nations, we also share a common interest in developing the blue economy, protecting our marine resources, and strengthening maritime security. Together, we can promote the sustainable use of our oceans while creating new opportunities for economic growth and employment. Climate change remains one of the defining challenges of our generation. Although Africa and the Caribbean have contributed the least to global greenhouse gas emissions, our people continue to suffer a disproportionate share of its consequences. Together, we must advocate climate justice, expand access to climate finance, and invest in resilient structures that protect our communities and secures our future. Let the Ghana-Jamaica partnership become a model for a renewed relationship between Africa and the Caribbean, one that is driven by innovation, by our shared prosperity, our common determination to improve the lives of our people. The friendship between our two countries has already been tested not only in moments of celebration, but also in times of adversity. When Hurricane Melissa's widespread destruction in Jamaica occurred, Ghana responded as family. At the direction of the government of Ghana, the Ghana Armed Forces Engineers Regiment deployed personnel to assist in the reconstruction efforts. Working closely with the Jamaica Defense Force, government agencies and local communities, they helped restore damaged infrastructure, rehabilitate public facilities, and support affected families as they rebuild their lives. Their mission was not one of compassion. It was a mission of brotherhood and solidarity in true African tradition. It It was not simply an engineering assignment. It was a practical demonstration of Pan-African solidarity. The professionalism, discipline, and selfless service displayed by the officers and men of the Ghana Armed Forces reflects the finest traditions of our military service. It strengthened the enduring bonds between our two nations. Their work stands as a reminder that while the Atlantic Ocean separates our shores, it cannot separate our humanity. When one member of our family suffers, the others must respond. That is the spirit of Pan-Africanism. That is the essence of South-South cooperation. And that is the enduring character of the friendship between Ghana and Jamaica. And let me use this occasion to commend the government and people of Jamaica for your resilience and for your speedy recovery after Hurricane Melissa. Since our visit here in Kingston, Jamaica, one would hardly recognize that Lady Melissa came through here. Jamaica has bounced back. It reflects Jamaica's resilience, and I commend you. The right of persons of African, I use lady because hurricanes are women. They are named after women. The rights of persons of African descent in the diaspora to return to the mother continent is not an act of charity or compassion. Repatriation is not an act of kindness. Repatriation is a right of all persons of African descent to return to the mother continent and settle or reside if they wish. And that is why Ghana passed the Right of Abode Act in the year 2000 and is currently considering a new homeland return bill that will codify residence and citizenship pathways for all members of the global African family. This is one of the articles of the manifesto I wish to push when I become the AU chairman, that all African nations must have a right of return for all members of the global African family. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to conclude by speaking directly to the young people of Jamaica, Ghana, Africa, and the global African diaspora. Our youth are the generation that will define the next chapter of our shared history. Our youth have inherited the courage of our ancestors, but they also possess opportunities that our ancestors could scarcely have imagined. Technology has connected our continents. Knowledge has become more accessible than at any time in history. Innovation has created possibilities that previous generations could only have dreamt about. The future will belong to those who create solutions, embrace innovation, and build bridges across nations and cultures. And to our youth, I say dream boldly, lead with integrity, innovate with purpose, build enterprises that create jobs, use technology to solve problems, and serve your communities with compassion. And never doubt that you can change and never doubt your ability to change your country, your continent, and the world. Our responsibility as leaders is to build societies that match your ambitions, societies founded on quality education, equal opportunity, innovation, democratic governance, and shared prosperity. If we succeed, the descendants of Africa will not merely have participated in shaping our future, they would have participated in leading it. Madam Speaker, Right Honorable President, Excellency Prime Minister, as I conclude, let me return to where I began. Our gathering today is much more than a state visit. It is a reaffirmation that history, however painful, need not define our future. The ocean that once carried our ancestors into bondage must now provide an opportunity to reconnect their descendants in a common pursuit of justice, peace, and shared prosperity. The sacrifices of those who came before us places a solemn responsibility upon our generation. It places a responsibility to strengthen our democracy. It places a responsibility to strengthen accountability. We must build inclusive economics that create opportunities for all our people. We must champion justice and equality. And we must ensure that Africa and the Caribbean take their rightful place as equal partners in shaping a more peaceful, prosperous, and inclusive world. And so let this visit mark the beginning of an even stronger partnership between Ghana and Jamaica. Let it inspire greater investment. Let it deepen cooperation between our institutions. Let it strengthen the bonds between us. And let it demonstrate to the world that a shared history can become the foundation for shared prosperity. As we celebrate the 70th anniversary of Ghana's independence, I wish to thank Prime Minister Andrew Holness for accepting in advance my invitation to be one of our special guests of honor. Together, let us honor our past by building a future worthy of the sacrifice of our ancestors, a future founded on justice, a future sustained by peace, a future driven by innovation, and a future in which Africa, the Caribbean, and the global African family stand together as architects of a more just, more equitable world. On behalf of the government and people of Ghana, I congratulate the government and people of Jamaica on the celebration of Emancipation Day and the 64th anniversary of your independence. May the friendship between Ghana and Jamaica continue to flourish. May Africa and the Caribbean continue to stand together in unity and common purpose. May God bless Jamaica, may God bless Ghana, and may God bless the enduring friendship between our two people. I thank you.
Your Excellency, it has been a distinct honor to welcome you here to the Parliament of Jamaica. We appreciate the insights that you have shared with us and your vision for the future of our two nations. Your remarkable journey through public life has been marked by an enduring commitment to national development and to the service of your people of Ghana, and the wider African continent. It has afforded you a unique appreciation of the demands of leadership, the intricacies of governance, and the importance of principled diplomacy. Your address reflected that depth of experience and reaffirmed the value of our partnership, mutual respect, and shared purpose. We commend your leadership on the global stage and your unwavering advocacy for repatriate justice. Your efforts have strengthened the international call for the historical redress and underscored the importance of confronting the legacy of the transatlantic slave trade in pursuit of justice, dignity, and opportunity for present and future generations. We also salute the people of Ghana, whose creativity, resilience, and enterprise have driven remarkable progress while preserving the rich cultural heritage that continues to find expression in the Jamaica's language, tradition, music, and spirit. These enduring bonds provide a strong foundation for expanding cooperation in culture, education, trade, and wider development. Your Excellency, thank you for honoring this Parliament by your presence. We wish you every success as you continue to lead the Republic of Ghana, and we look forward to welcoming you here in Jamaica in the very near future. Thank you, President.
The NPP cannot be underestimated. You know it, I know it.